We talked about Ms. Driver's cell phone in State's Exhibit 115. As part of your work on this case, did you receive the complete cell phone extraction from that device?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I collected those from the Camp Police Department, their evidence department.
So in item number 1, the left column where they're numbered, what was the term searched on her phone?
Killing somebody to save them.
And then in line 4, what was searched?
Killing because the world is fake.
And welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Matt Johnson. In this afternoon from Michael Ayala. Thanks for being with us. Our Court TV cameras are covering the biggest cases from coast to coast in the state of Georgia. The state rests its case in chief in the cult baby murder trial of Chloe Driver. In Arizona, a setback for Lori Vallow-Daybell's defense team after they try to remove a request for a mental competency evaluation. A judge did not make a decision on the motion to withdraw due to her absence at today's hearing ahead of the cult mom conspiracy trial. Finally, in the state of Hawaii, a jury now deliberating the fate of a woman accused of killing a 7-month-old that she was babysitting, killing that baby with a fatal dose of medicine. Let's stick with Hawaii now. We are in a verdict watch in the baby medicine manslaughter trial for Dixie Denise Villa. The jury has been deliberating now for about 4 hours. She's accused of killing a baby Abigail, with a fatal dose of medicine commonly found in Benadryl while babysitting. Remember, court requires those proceedings to be aired on a delay, so we are showing you closing arguments from yesterday. First up, the state of Hawaii.
Now let me explain to you how the state has proven this case beyond a reasonable doubt. In the most simplest terms, it comes down to, did the defendant give Abby diphenhydramine? And did the state prove that? The answer is yes. The only person who was needing a break from Abby on that night of February 23rd is the defendant, because she couldn't handle all by herself. When you listen to that 911 call, you can hear the kids in the background. There is not a minute of peace as the defendant is trying to talk to 911 and trying to give CPR. And you'll have that 911 call with you when you go in the deliberation room, and you can hear the level of chaos that is occurring in that house. And the kids aren't crying about Abby. It just sounds like play. That's why this happened. The defendant gave the kids iPads and gave Abby Benadryl so she herself could go to sleep and rest after a long day. The bottom line is no infant, and definitely not Abby, should have had any diphenhydramine in her system. But the one choice she could have made was to call Anna or James and say, come get your kids. I can't watch them anymore. She never gave them that choice. She never gave them the choice that could have saved Abby's life. And for all the reasons that the state has explained, find the defendant guilty of recklessly causing the death of Abigail Lobish. Find this defendant guilty of manslaughter.
Now let's hear from the defense.
Where's the evidence? There is no evidence that Denise had access to diphenhydramine, whether it was liquid, pill form, or topical. There was no diphenhydramine found in her home. There was no diphenhydramine found on her person. They didn't even look. So where is the evidence? Even if I have done something that you don't like, I was mean, I cross-examined Anna Lobish, I didn't have sympathy for her. Please excuse me. My role, my job, is to protect Denise's constitutional rights and to represent her vigorously and zealously. So please excuse me, and please only consider the evidence that you have seen or the lack of evidence that you would like to see, and find Denise not guilty, because we are at the end of this trial and still No one has told us what happened.
Again, that jury is on a lunch break right now. We have paused the clock at about 4 hours, 5 minutes on your screen. As soon as they're back to work, we'll update the clock, and we will keep you updated if we hear that there is a verdict and bring it to you live. Let's head back to Georgia now. We are on day 3 of the cult baby murder trial playing out there for Chloe Driver. She's accused of killing her 1-year-old daughter, Hannah. Prosecutors say that she was involved in a polyamorous group and followed extreme views of that group that included sensory deprivation and unconventional healing rituals. The defense argues that Driver was mentally unwell because of her involvement in that so-called cult. An investigator is on the stand right now talking about Driver's cell phone data, which included searches on computers, like searches like how to snap a neck and escape ideas. An investigator with Cherokee County is on the stand right now with the DA's office for cross-examination.
I'm going to ask you some questions about the Cellbrite report in total, and then we'll whittle it down to the actual reports you did, okay?
Yes,
and then
ma'am.
we'll talk about some of the jail calls. One of the things I want to ask you first and foremost, were you asked as part of this case to do any of these extraction reports with respect to Benjamin Ben Michael's phone?
No.
Okay. So you agree with me that there were 3 cell phone extraction reports done in this case, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and you received all 3 of those full extractions, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And the only one that you were asked to pull search terms or run through was Chloe Driver's, correct?
Yes, ma'am. I did review the other phones, but I did not pull
Generate
any reports.
or you didn't conduct any searches on Mr. Ben Michael's phone about mental health or treatment or anything like that?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Okay, all right. And the same with Sarah's, correct?
That's correct, yes,
All
ma'am.
right. And part of those reports is contained in those reports. I mean, we're talking with Chloe's, I think it was, what, 84,000 pages?
A little over 84,000,
And
yes, ma'am.
that report is broken down into sections, correct?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
And so you can go through that report and, look at the text messages, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Any Facebook Messenger that's associated with that phone or that's been logged into on that phone, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Any of their search history,
Yes,
their
ma'am.
cell phone call log, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Voicemails, to a degree,
Yes, ma'am.
based on storage of the phone.
Yes, ma'am.
And contacts,
Yes, ma'am.
including like locations of, when they've used the Apple Maps or whatever. All of that is contained in that report, correct?
Yes, ma'am. There are some things that don't import over for various reasons, but yes, ma'am, you're correct.
And it includes stuff that's even been deleted, correct?
Sometimes, yes, ma'am.
So it's never really permanently deleted in some aspects. It shows on the report, at least, if the item had been deleted, if it pulls it in the report, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. It also includes all the, images that they generated with their camera, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Any images they may have downloaded from the internet, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And videos as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And one of those reports that is generated is what we call the installed applications one. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so I'm going to show you, and I'm not tendering it as an exhibit because it's already been admitted, pages 4014, 4015, and 4016 of Ms. May I approach the witness?
Yes.
All right, with respect to each one that I gave you, each notation, can you tell me what applications were installed and what date those were? Or do you want me to highlight it a little bit for you?
Tape a call.
Yes, the first one is called
Tape a call.
Okay, and what date was that installed?
Purchase date was December the 1st of 2020.
Okay, and what about number 2?
My second line, calls and text, That was November the 5th of 2020.
Okay, and then number 3?
Easy voice recorder. That's that's October the 24th of 2020.
Okay. So even if you, when you purchase those and install them, it shows that it generates a report based in that cell right reader, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And there's lots of apps that are installed and deleted generally in this, and when you review all of those, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. The other part about this is that there were other searches done by Miss Driver that you were not necessarily asked to search for, correct? Like she searched for a lot of things.
I did go through the phone and I reviewed it, but there are not reports that I generated for every search that I conducted.
Okay. So you would agree with me that if it was generated as in the overall picture, that it was was an accurate reflection of what other topics she may have searched for?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so if she searched for things about how to make muffins with vegetables and chickpeas, you have no reason to disagree with that?
That's correct.
Baked casserole for a 1-year-old.
Yes, ma'am.
So not all of her searches were related to anything related to mental health or the event that we're here for today. Is that a fair assessment?
No, that's correct.
Okay. There's also searches in here about things about parenting, correct?
There is, yes, ma'am.
There's there's one about failing at sleep training for a 1-year-old in September of 2020. Do you recall seeing any of those?
Not that one, but
okay.
I agree.
If it's
Yes,
in the
ma'am.
report that it
Yes.
is what it is. Okay. Also ones about, conditions of the child, like hives, or doing some sort of research to take care of the child.
I do recall that one, yes, ma'am.
Okay. She also did searches in September 2020 related to her baby's specific age and milestones. Do you recall that?
Yes, ma'am.
About walking, sleep training, all of those kind of things.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and she also did searches about specific types of food. It seemed that she was trying to figure out what she could feed her child, or other things. You would agree with me with respect to that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And again, she did other searches about and related to the care of her child. You'd agree with me on that, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You would also agree that some of that web history and searches included trying to search on how to obtain a birth certificate, correct?
Yes.
All right, and part of that included, and that was around November 25th of 2020. Would you agree with me on that?
I don't recall the date, but that sounds correct,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
And those were searches that were done.
All right, cross-examination there. We have to step aside for a quick break. When we return, the defendant's cell phone search history gives more insight, perhaps, on her mental state and possible escape plan for her and her baby, Hannah. Keep it right here on your front row seat to justice.
Tonight, on Closing Arguments, a mother with ties to a nomadic cult stands accused of stabbing her 13-month-old daughter. We'll bring you the very latest as prosecutors continue their case.
Closing Arguments, tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
This case, brutal murder of Laken Riley.
We have a suspect. He did not know her at all.
Such a violent act. Will there be justice for Laken Riley?
The murder of Laken Riley. Live coverage begins Friday, only on Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. We have been watching the devastating case out of Georgia where a baby was killed by the hands of her mother. But the real question for this jury there in Georgia is she guilty by reason of insanity? And should she be institutionalized, or should she in fact be sent to prison for the rest of her life? Joining us to discuss, we have two guests, great women. Kelly Hyman here in studio, trial attorney, and we also have criminal defense attorney Robin Nunn joining us remotely. Robin, thanks for being on the program. I'll start with you. When we have a defendant who is basically saying, yes, I did it, but I snapped and had a psychiatric break. We're listening to a lot of the testimony from the state's case and their witnesses that actually felt like they were defense witnesses. What's your overall take right now where we are in this trial?
Yeah, I think the prosecution's going to have a really hard time proving their theory of the case, which is that she killed this baby in order to be alone with her husband. I mean, that doesn't even make any sense in a polyamorous relationship in the first place, but it also doesn't make any sense based on the facts of this events of this case and the witnesses that have testified to which you've referred to. She obviously slit the baby's throat and then stabbed herself. She had been searching for weeks on ways to save someone. She met this person when she was very young. The testimony that's been, given is that she was pretty mentally off and often screamed and yelled and attacked others. So I just really don't see any realm of which the prosecution has proven their theory here.
And as we're approaching closer, tomorrow could be the first witnesses called for the defense if they choose to put on a case. My big question, Kelly Hyman, is always, will the defendant take the stand? We have already heard from her in form of those interrogation videos at the hospital and also phone calls and now her search history. Shouldn't she want to take the stand to kind of explain those things?
Ultimately, it's going to be her decision whether she wants to, but absolutely not, because of the fact that here the defense is arguing mental health, right? That she had mental health issues and at that time. So the fact that she takes the witness stand, I can definitely see that opening up the door, and then once she's asked this, the state can ask all types of questions, and if the jury perceives in their mind potentially she looks fine, she looks mentally well, then they potentially have a really hard time saying in fact that she did what she did, that she planned it.
Yeah, and to your point, right now she looks, pretty, together in court. She's wearing a sweater today. She's engaged. She might be taking medicine, I'm not quite sure, and be medicated. But Robin Nunn, to Kelly Hyman's point, do you think that there is a realm in which we could see her take the stand, or do you think it's actually better that what has already been presented in court and is going to be back in that jury room is her, acting a little bit crazy, so to speak?
Yeah, I think Kelly hit the nail right on the head. It's ultimately going to be her decision. And we have seen people have been determined to be mentally insane take the stand and show that to a court. It's often uncomfortable and, and pretty shocking. But I think in this situation, I doubt that she would. She's on occasion been, seen giggling, kind of looking about sort of furiously. She doesn't seem to necessarily be all there. She's been able to respond to the judge with yes and no's, but it's not clear to me that she is in any way, in shape or form, able to testify.
Well, we'll find out. We'll find out soon, as early as tomorrow, because the state rested its case in chief today. But, you ladies are right. This is the one part of the trial where it's up to the defendant only to make that decision. They can take advice from their attorneys, which usually say, do not take the stand, but it's up to each defendant in our Constitution, so we'll find out. Let's head back to court now there in Georgia. An investigator with the Cherokee County District Attorney's Office is on cross-examination, revealing more of the topics of the defendant's search history that really raise eyebrows.
Knowledge about this case with from being on it since the beginning, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you knew that there were at least contained within law enforcement's reports that they had sought out information to establish Hannah's birth record, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, and you understand, or you would agree with me that part of this whole scenario is that one of the reasons we had to establish parentage and stuff was because there wasn't a formal birth certificate or anything else issued.
That's correct.
Okay. So around November 25th of 2020, you would agree with me that these searches indicate that she was looking for how to obtain a birth certificate.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. And some of them included deciding a year later to get a baby a birth certificate.
Yes, ma'am.
And variations of that. She kind of seemed to word it different ways.
Yes,
do you recall her also looking for how to travel with a baby without that birth certificate?
I do.
And how to obtain, proper documents for her daughter, like a passport and other things around that same time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Part of the Cellbrite report also includes you get emails, correct? You can see emails that are sent to the associated email address with that phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And those are all truncated, smaller than what the full message tends to be, but you can see who it came from, the date and time, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And, kind of the subject and a little bit of the body, correct?
That is correct.
All right, so you would agree with me that if there are certain emails that I'm about to reference with you that are generated from that particular report, you'd have no reason to dispute that they existed, correct?
That's correct.
All right, so, yes. May I see? I just. Okay, just the subject ones. All right, so December 8th, 2020, you would, this is item number 4 on page 3898 of the Cellbrite report, with the subject line of why did the narcissist pick me from English at Quora.com. I think you already talked about Quora, that was part of some of the searches you generated.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you'd have no reason to dispute that was something that might have been in our inbox at that particular time.
That's correct.
Do you have any familiarity with Quora and how that works?
I do not.
Okay, so typically it may be one of those sites where you ask a question and then get an email response. So if it was something that said like a reply to, you'd have no reason to dispute that.
No, ma'am.
Same with an email on December 7th from the same Quora.com, specifically directed to her. Subject more related to, I've realized that I'm a bad person, what can I do about it? Again, no reason to dispute that.
No, ma'am.
Same with a subject line from December 6th, do narcissists know that they've lost a loved one? No reason to dispute that.
No, ma'am.
I know it seems tedious, but how we have to do it. On November 28th, 2020, this is page 3916 of the Cellbrite report. How can I cure a paranoid thought that everybody is against me, plotting against me? Same position?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you recall seeing any emails in there regarding the the Children of Christ Trust and the SBA applications or anything else like that?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay. And so there were some references on the pages 3970, 3971, 3974 regarding the establishment of or when they were applying for that loan, that kind of thing. You recall seeing those, though?
I do, yes, ma'am.
Okay. One of the other items that you generated with respect to this particular case was a report you did a search about a bus ticket for a 13-month-old. Do you recall that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that was generated by you putting in that particular search in the Cellbrite reader and establishing a report, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and that search, based on your extraction or your running of that report, that was a search that was conducted on December the 8th of 2020? Would it help you if I showed you the report?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. May I approach? Yes. I'm going to show her what I'm going to mark as defendant 17. So you'd agree with me that on December the 8th, 2020 at 12:23 p.m. that she had conducted that search for a bus ticket for a 13-month-old?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. At this time, I would move to tender that as the defense 17.
Any objection, Ms. Crawford?
No objection. All right. Some of the other reports I know you already. I'm sorry.
It's admitted.
Some of the other reports that you entered or talked about already was about the CBD, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And those searches began in around September 12th of 2020, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Around the same time that the individuals involved in this case seemed to indicate that Ms. Driver had started.
All right, we have to take a short break right now, but first, an update there out of Hawaii. You may have noticed we resumed the verdict watch clock on your screen in the baby medicine manslaughter trial of Dixie Villa. The jury has picked up those deliberations as soon as there is a verdict. We'll bring it to you live. Meanwhile, we'll head back to Georgia. Coming up, the defense grills the witness about not finding any searches about actually killing the baby as we watch key testimony in the cult baby murder trial. And welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Matt Johnson, in today for Michael Ayala. Thanks for being with us. Let's head back now to Canton, Georgia, where it is day 3 in the cult baby murder trial playing out there. 24-year-old mother Chloe Driver faces multiple charges, including malice murder in the December 2020 stabbing death of her daughter Hannah. She has pleaded guilty, not guilty by reason of insanity, rather. Let's head back into the courtroom now. Still on the stand is Cherokee County investigator Deanne Jarrett.
Started utilizing CBD, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And some of those searches included her concern, or it seemed to indicate a concern about breastfeeding while using that substance, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And there was also a search in that particular time frame that she did, specifically asking, like, how long is it in breast milk? Do you recall that? If it's item number 11, you have no dispute about that?
No dispute, yes, ma'am.
All right. And that one of the other searches, which is item number 10 in that state's exhibit, that CBD oil and therapy for mental illness, no dispute about that, correct?
That's correct.
All right. With regard to the searches that you ran about killing or snapping a neck, you didn't find any in those entries or anything about any specifics related to her searching on how to kill a baby, correct?
I did not.
Okay. Didn't have any idea of who she was looking or talking about at that particular time?
No, ma'am, that's correct.
Did you run any searches indicating that regarding suicide or anything else like that? Do you recall?
I don't recall. I may have searched the phone, but I did not recall any reports or create any reports.
All right. To make this easier for you, I'm going to give you back States 131 so we can walk through this one, okay?
Thank you.
All right, so the first item that search, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, so these reports kind of actually run backwards, meaning it's the closest in time date, right, all the way to the end date of when you started the search. So the first part of this search started technically ended on December 8th, but it's the first part of the report, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so when we look at it, we have to kind of look at it like we're reading it backwards.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so let's go back to, if you will, go to page 59, if you don't mind, and look at items 655 and 656, and if you wouldn't mind reading the dates and times and what the searches were, please.
Okay, 655 is November the 11th of 2020. And the search is mental institutions, Knoxville, Tennessee, or Knoxville, TN.
All right, and that was, it looks like, done 2 different searches on this, just a little bit of time apart, a couple of seconds maybe?
1 second, yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, so we are now going to go to page 57. And let's look at 627, 628, and 629, please.
Okay, these are made on November the 17th of 2020. And the whole world is waiting on me to heal it. That is for number 627 and 628. And then 629 is the whole world is waiting on me.
Okay, and those were all made within a few minutes of each other based on that timestamp, correct?
Yes, within 3 minutes.
All right, and so if you go up, further up that page, we will talk about 619, 620, and 621.
These were also on November the 17th of 2020, all at 10:34, a few seconds apart. And all 3 entries or searches are "the whole world is programming me."
Okay. All right, and then we'll skip over the ones that are the searches of the baby that we were talking about, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
The page 52. And you would agree with me that these searches from November 22nd of 2020 are about what you referenced earlier about the married man and that kind of thing, her searches related to that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. All right, I'm going to direct your attention to page 45, starting at 482. Going down through 490. Now, the way I understand this report, Ms. Jarrett, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that when you are searching, when you plug something in to search it, it can search across multiple applications and that kind of thing. So just because there's multiple entries, it's the device utilizing all its available areas that it can find the information, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So with 482 to 490, can you indicate what on November 23rd of 2020 Ms. Driver's search was?
Home Anchorage, Instagram, Ali, Oma, Gabriella, Cockendall.
Okay. And you know from your work on this case that the Ms. Kuykendall had previously gone by the other name of Oma, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. All right, so we are going to go to 41.
And we have to take a break right now. Still ahead, investigator Jarrett wraps up her testimony on the stand in the cult baby murder trial of Chloe Driver. Keep it right here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
Tonight, on Closing Arguments, a mother with ties to a nomadic cult stands accused of stabbing her 13-month-old daughter. We'll bring you the very latest as prosecutors continue their case.
Closing Arguments, tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
Tyler, why do you think you killed your parents?
This is going to get out of my head.
Interview with a Killer. Season finale, Sunday, 8/7 Central. And don't miss the new season coming in 2025, only on Court TV.
Back now to the murder trial playing out in Georgia for 24-year-old Chloe Driver. Investigator Deanne Jarrett with the Cherokee County District Attorney's Office is wrapping up her testimony on cross-examination. Let's get you back to court.
These are from November 24th of 2020. You would agree that the searches included not having enough and having too much at the same time, live without newness, reliving the same day, everyone is the oneness except me. You'd agree that that's what's reflected in your report?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Page 40, same date, November 24th, search about the Truman Show ruined my life, history repeating itself, and the life is infinite shattering.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Flip to 39, similar searches. My life is being made for me and doesn't exist outside of me. That's kind of what the gist of that entry, or that page is about?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Page 38, November 24th, 2020. World is against me. There is no escape.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. 37. These are the ones I think you already talked about, but that's the one that says killing somebody to save them and the world is fake.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And there's also a notation on that same day for a search about forced to live?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The 34, we will start with 370 and 371. Those entries are at 9:44 a.m. The whole world is watching and reacting to me.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and so then you go up to same date at 11/28/53. This is number 361. Getting a passport during COVID. You would agree with me that that's what those searches were?
Yes,
On
ma'am.
those days, just at different times.
Yes, ma'am.
And then we go back to the birth certificate. We don't need to go back through that. Page 29. 303 are this is November 27th of 2020, are police with Satan?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. November 26th, what is the punishment for running from sins? I'm sorry, that's number 310?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then there appears to be, we're on page 28, November 27th of 2020, she did a search about schizophrenia.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, also about what I would assume to be like a warrant.
Warrant, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just misspelled a couple times?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And then again, on November 28th of 2020, which we're now on page 27, there was another search on that date around 8:14 p.m. about schizophrenia.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And again, there's lots of searches in between these indicating, like, looking for a place to live, stuff related to her baby, that kind of thing, correct?
Yes, multiple addresses.
Okay. Also on page 19, December 2nd, 2020, train Knoxville. Do you see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Page 18, number 175, a search on December 2nd, 2020, 3:02 in the afternoon. I see patterns and mistakes of myself, life infinite breaking.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, page 13, we're getting there. December 3rd, 2020. A search about I'm evil and don't know how to be nice.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Then on the next page, on page 12, the next day, December 4th, there's searches about trying to find ways to treat severe diaper rash. Do you see that on page 12? Numbers 111.
Yeah, baby red rash on body and face. Yes, ma'am. And then cream for severe diaper rash on baby skin.
Okay. You would agree with me that aside from the testimony you gave earlier about how to snap a neck on those dates, there were aside from those dates, there were not any additional searches related to that leading up to December 8th of 2020 outside of the ones you highlighted earlier, correct?
That's correct.
All right. So December 4th, December 6th, 7th, 8th, there weren't those kind of searches from the reports that you ran in your review of the data from the cell phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now we're going to go to page 3. And that's that bus ticket one that I asked you about earlier from December 8th, and that's at 12:23 p.m. on the 8th.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. There's another search on 12/8 of 2020 at 12:44 about going bankrupt or to clear debt?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then the next one on there is at 12:47 p.m. and that's the reference to going into the dark for healing. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And that's the end of the data on that cell phone with respect to searches, correct?
That's correct.
All right. All right, I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you can step down.
All right, no redirect. That wraps up testimony for this all-important witness for the state of Georgia. Let's bring in our guest for this hour, trial attorney Kelly Hyman, joining in studio, and remotely criminal defense attorney Robin Nunn. Let's begin with you on this one, Kelly. I know what you're going to say. 3 words: state of mind, right? And the delusions to what she testified about these searches, and what really stood, we're in studio where we're talking, what really stood out was world against me, no escape, life doesn't exist. Those things really were emphasized, don't you think?
Absolutely, because now the defense is basically that she has a mental health issue. So they want to use these searches to help establish that. What was her state of mind is exactly what you said. What was she thinking on these searches? I mean, in some of these searches, you're looking at going, what would someone do in their right mind? Why would they make these kind of searches? This just doesn't seem right. Like the Trump, the movie and the world's against me and evil, all those kind of things make someone think there are some definitely mental health issues here.
Right, and to those searches that Kelly just brought up, Robin, it kind of reminded me of maybe she wanted to escape, or at least maybe that's how they're going to paint that picture as well, because they highlighted getting a passport during COVID time, and then also, to your point, the Truman Show. But so how do you think that will play in the minds of this jury as we get closer to closing arguments?
I think it's going to be really tough. I mean, this is obviously a horrific killing, and they're really going to be focused on whether at the time of the crime, on whether or not she knows the difference between right and wrong. And if she knew at that time of the killing, I don't think this insanity of the defense is going to work. I believe these messages can be twisted to indicate that she was thinking about escaping and getting away, and that they might construe these messages to mean that she was indeed in her right mind and was trying to figure out a way out of the situation that she was in with her partner.
Well, we know that the state has rested its case in chief, and we have just about a minute left. But who would you be strategizing and calling to the stand with your defense case?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, these insanity defense cases are so hard. There's only 1% of cases where this is actually used, and the success rate of them is very, very low. It's like around 26%. And in 90% of the successful cases, the defendant has been previously diagnosed with a mental illness. So if this were my case and I was the defense, I'd be trying to bring up others who can prove that she had a history of mental illness. There's obviously been some testimony that she didn't seem quite right by all the people that hung around her and knew her, but I think they're really going to need some hard testimony that shows that she's previously been diagnosed with mental problems.
We have about 20 seconds. Who would you call?
An expert to help establish that she had mental health issues.
All right, ladies, we have to end the conversation there. Thank you so much. A quick programming note straight ahead. Coming up tonight on Closing Arguments, the Menendez brothers case. Will the brothers be released from prison? A new LA County District Attorney just elected will join Ted Rowlands tonight on Closing Arguments to explain his plan for the brothers' reach sentencing and how he plans to handle this high-profile case. It's an interview you do not want to miss right here on Court TV tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. All right, coming up, a special thank you, of course, to our guests in studio, Kelly Hyman and Robin Nunn. But coming up, a review of the 3 things that we learned today in the cases that we're covering from coast to coast right here on Court TV. Here are the 3 things that we learned on this Thursday. First, a trial date has been set for January 13th in Nevada for former Dances with Wolves actor Nathan Chasing Horse. This is a major development in his sexual abuse case after more than a year of stalled court proceedings while he challenged it. Chasing Horse has pleaded not guilty to 21 felonies, charging him with sexually abusing Indigenous women and girls. Prosecutors are now moving forward with their case after a grand jury again indicted him last month. Second, we are in a verdict watch for the baby medicine manslaughter trial playing out in Hawaii for Dixie Denise Villa. She's accused of killing baby Abigail with a fatal dose of medicine while babysitting. Villa has pleaded not guilty. During closing arguments, the defense argued that there was not enough evidence to prove that she gave the baby the medicine. The jury has been deliberating today for several hours. Once a verdict is reached, we will bring it to you live. And third, the state rests its case in chief in the cult baby murder trial of Chloe Driver. She's accused of killing her 1-year-old daughter, Hannah. Prosecutors say that she was involved in a polygamous group that followed extreme views. Her attorneys claim that she was insane at the time of the murder and had a mental break. Today, a lead detective testified about Driver's competency while conducting a police interview at the hospital where the defendant was being held. I'm Matt Johnson in tonight for Michael Ayala. It's been a pleasure being with you. Coming up next on 48 Hours, when a man goes missing, his friends turn to social media to track his final hours. What they learn is horrific. Then ahead at 8 p.m. Eastern. Tune in to Closing Arguments. Ted Rollins is in tonight for Vinnie Politan. He takes a deep dive into the Menendez brothers case. A new district attorney just elected in the state of California joins Ted Rollins live to discuss the case. This is Court TV.